he'll do it all. Yeah, he's awesome. So keep me posted, Spice. Bye. Coach Ferentz is on the property. He'll be joining us momentarily. Again, if you would please turn off your cell phones or flip them to mute for us, and we'll start shortly. Very good. Okay, again, please let us get a microphone to you when we start questions from the floor. But first, Coach Ferentz is going to offer some opening remarks.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for being late. It's been a fantastic week. We had the great pleasure and honor of being here last year. It was our first experience for a bowl game in the desert, and just had a fantastic experience. And we're extremely excited because of that to come back here, and this has been even better than a year ago. So the hospitality has been absolutely fantastic. We're very appreciative of that, and very appreciative of being selected to play in this game. And we've had a lot of work to do and a lot of work to do still because we play an outstanding opponent in Oklahoma. So we're eager to get to the game tomorrow night and play an outstanding team. And certainly it's going to be a great challenge for us, but one we're looking forward to.
Okay, let's go to questions. Again, we need to get a microphone to you because we're streaming online. In the middle. Please identify yourself, too.
James Hale, Sports Talk 1400 The Ref in Norman, Oklahoma. Coach, could you talk about your outstanding receiver, McNutt, how many different ways you use him and how great of a player he's been for you?
Yeah, Marvin's really a great story, a great young man, and came to us as a quarterback. And back in the fall of '08, when Ricky Stanzi, I guess somewhere in September, end of September, it looked like Ricky was emerging as our number one guy. Marvin came to us and expressed an interest in moving. He wanted to get on the field for obvious reasons. And so that year was kind of a wash, if you will. He was out there playing, but just kind of running around, really didn't know what to do. And his biggest challenge was running more than 4 straight plays. Quarterbacks don't do much, and he wasn't in that conditioning mode. But with each step along the way, he's done a great job. Eric Campbell's worked with him. Our receivers coach has done a nice job. But most importantly, Marvin's put the work in. Has made a lot of big plays for us, and this year set several records. I think the thing that's probably most significant about it, you look at 2 of the guys that he's passed, Tim Dwight and Dana Hughes, both had excellent NFL careers. So it's a real tribute to Marvin to make a position switch and pass 2 guys that were career receivers at Iowa. Really speaks to the work he's done. So, really happy to see him have that kind of success.
More questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Paula here to the left, Coach.
Yep.
Paula Boven of the Arizona Republic. And Coach, you addressed this a little bit in your introduction, but because you were here last year and sort of the subsequent scrutiny of the host committee here of the Fiesta Bowl and bowl discussions in general, were you curious coming in if it was going to feel different, and how has it felt?
Well, yeah, not necessarily, and my thoughts probably aren't that global. But, coming down, we knew what a tremendous experience it was a year ago. And, whatever issues may have come up in the past year, I think they've been addressed in a real systematic and logical way. And, the people here associated with this game are just absolutely fantastic. been fortunate. We've been involved in a lot of bowls, and if I go back to my time as an assistant in Iowa in the 80s, a lot of different bowls, different venues, and I don't think anybody does it better. And the thing that's so impressive, I think, from my vantage point, is the depth of involvement, just how many volunteers are working in this to make this such a great experience. And you can't turn around without someone from the committee or someone involved in the bowl being there to help you. And it's just been absolutely great. So it's a great venue for a bowl game, and then I think the hospitality that's extended is certainly second to none. So we're really appreciative of that.
Right here in front, Coach.
Yep.
How do you, in practice, how have you simulated the the jumbo package, the Belldozer thing?
That's a tough one. There are a lot of tough things that are tough to simulate, and that's something very unique to Oklahoma, and it's been very successful for them. So, we're going to do our best there. We certainly don't have a quarterback that looks like that. We don't have many tight ends or linebackers that look like that either. And then the other thing, obviously, that Oklahoma, besides having good players, they're very well coached, but the pace that they play at offensively, it's another tough thing. It's really a tough thing to simulate and tough thing to defend once you get out on the field. We've used a series of guys, but I mean, it's nothing like the real thing, as they say.
To your left,
sure.
Coach. Front row.
Hey, Tony Capobianco, Tucson citizen. When dealing with a quarterback like Landry Jones, will you plan on just blitzing him to provide pressure, or try to suppress the wide receivers through a tight man coverage?
We're not a huge man team. You can start with that. So what we'll probably do what we do defensively. We're primarily a zone team and try to get pressure with our front four. Like any game, you're going to try to mix some things in there, but the bottom line is we're going to have to really play good team defense because they've got some outstanding players out, but they've got a lot of outstanding players still on their team that are going to be out there playing. And when you look at them offensively, the pace of their offense is very unique. And then Landry Jones, it's amazing the parallels between last year's game. We played Gabbert from Missouri, who was 10th pick in the draft, and a tremendous thrower. We really had great respect for him coming in, and more so even now. And now we face another quarterback that can just really throw the football very well. So it's going to be a real challenge for us defensively.
More questions? Can you hear to the left? Second row.
Yeah, Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. Kirk, yesterday the Big Ten and Big Ten Pac-12 announced the new scheduling alliance. You had any chance to think about if that will change your scheduling philosophy or not?
Yeah, not a great deal, and I know. I imagine it's national. I know in our conference that's been an issue, just scheduling challenges, the non-league games. And at one point we were going to push to 9 league games. I don't know if this is going to affect that or not. I didn't read the fine print, and for some reason they didn't include us in those discussions. That's way over our heads, but I think the intention certainly is to kind of form a merger without merging conferences, if you will, and with the tradition of the Rose Bowl, it makes perfect sense. So, I think it will ease some of the pressures in terms of scheduling, and I think in our case, instead of playing a team like Syracuse or Pittsburgh, we've gone east a little bit. My guess is now that'll shift towards the Pac-10 conference and take teams from other conferences that we've been playing out of the mix.
More questions?
Kirk, Brett
McMurphy. To the left.
Brett McMurphy with CBSSports.com. Oklahoma started the preseason number 1. Obviously, they're not going to finish up that high. Last year, you guys were a top 10 team and didn't end up there. Looking back on it, is it a lot tougher when you have those preseason expectations as a highly ranked team to finish that strong, or is it something in particular that leads to not being able to finish that high?
I would suggest there are challenges no matter what, and we've had it both ways. And the bottom line is it's what you do each and every week, and there's so many variables that go into it. And I know we live in a society that wants to be able to predict everything. Who's going to win the Heisman? We all want to know that in July. But that's one of the great things about college sports. There's always surprises. There's going to be twists and turns out there. I go back to our 0-2 team. Nobody in the world knew who Brad Banks was, at least nobody outside of the state of Iowa. I don't think. Certainly I went to the Big Ten meetings that summer, and Brad Banks was hardly a household name. He ended up being the league MVP, runner-up for the Heisman against Carson Palmer. And, so stories like that I think are what make college football so unique and so special. And I think at the end of the day, you just can't predict. Everybody wants to, and you try to, and you have the evidence, but it really gets down to all the twists and turns that take place during a 12-game schedule or 11-game schedule in those years. But there's so many things that are going to happen: injuries, breaks, disappointing things that happen, and that's what makes sports, I think, so much fun to follow.
In the back to your right, Coach.
Coach? Yeah, Coach Ferentz, your contact and impressions of Bob Stoops versus a player at Iowa. Then, of course, he served as a graduate assistant and something called a volunteer coach there with the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, Bob was a skinny free safety when I got there in 81. And it was interesting because I came from the University of Pittsburgh. It was my first exposure to major college football. We had a really excellent team in 1980. I think we had 11 seniors drafted. 3 of them were first-round players. Russ Grimm was one of the guys, a local name here for everybody, that wasn't a first-rounder and obviously should have been Hall of Fame player. So we had a great football team, a very talented football team, and I went to Iowa, and it looked a little different than what we had in Pittsburgh. And that was only my second year in major college football. But what I learned, we had Andre Tippett, who was probably the most notable team player on that team, Ron Hallstrom. Those 2 guys went on and had great careers in the NFL. But there weren't many of them beyond that. And the thing I noticed was it was a team that was tired of losing. They had a great attitude, and Bob was a big part of that. He was a junior that year, but truly one of the leaders on the defense. And you could kind of tell he's a coach's kid. He was a really smart, heady player, a very tough, tenacious player. And that was kind of symbolic of the way that defense played that year. They weren't the fastest group, but, boy, they were tough to move the ball against. And that group really led us to the Rose Bowl that year in the first winning season in 19 years there. So that was my introduction to Bob. And then obviously we got to know each other through the years, especially when he transitioned from being a player to a coach. And I've had nothing but utmost respect for his family. It comes from a great mom and dad family back in Youngstown. And they're a great coaching family. Obviously, history's proven that way to be. But for my money, Bob does as good a job as anybody in college football. And I say that with all due respect to a lot of great coaches at this level. But I don't think there are many better than Bob, and one of the best people around, too.
Same spot, Coach, to your right.
Coach, Nathan Thompson, Fox 23, over here.
I'm sorry. Yep.
With Coker not playing in this game, does that affect your game plan for how you attack OU offensively? And through practice, how have the backups stepped up, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at our statistics, Marcus had 281 carries this year. Next guy is 18. So, psychologically, we got an advantage. Oklahoma's trying to figure out, who our guys are and then where are they, where they get their 18 carries or 12 carries, whatever it may be. But, it's no different than when a player gets injured. If you can't go, you can't go, and somebody else has to jump in there. And the other part of that equation is everybody else has to carry a little bit more responsibility. So that's been our attitude. And go back to our first bowl, Liddell Betts, who had a nice NFL career, wasn't able to go against Texas Tech. And Aaron Greving jumped in, got 115 yards, 120 yards, whatever it may have been, was the MVP. And it's football. You just got to play on. And, we'll try to be smart about how we approach things and handle things, but we don't plan on surrendering. We're going to show up and play the game.
More questions for Coach Ferentz. Right here in the front, to the right.
Coach, Marcus Zucevic wasn't here yesterday for interviews. What's his status and overall health-wise of your team?
Yeah, he's fine. He had a little vomiting and sickness going through, and I think it shifted to another guy today. So the good news is it's a 24-hour type. He's up and running this morning, eating again, and he'll be with us at practice today. Overall, we're fairly healthy. The position of note probably be the tight end position. It doesn't look like Brad Herman's going to be able to make it. He had a bad foot sprain that didn't require surgery, but it hasn't responded, so he won't play. Ray Hamilton's got a little bit of a knee issue that hasn't responded either, so I don't think he'll play. And then Quentin Alston is going to be held out medically too. So I think those 3 guys are probably the only 3 right now that are, out of the game at this stage. Yeah, it does. It just chips away at your depth a little bit, and we're kind of like a pro team. We'll be out there with 45 guys, and see what happens. We'll have more than that dressed, but. Hopefully, it's only a 60-minute game. We'll get through it.
To the left, Coach.
Yes. Yeah, Barry Trammell with the Oklahoma. Kirk, Bob has talked a lot about last month about Hayden Fry and his influence on him, and I know you were heavily influenced. What I want to know is that why neither one of you guys turned out as flamboyant as Hayden did.
Well, because we're smart enough to know not to try to copy that guy. Coach Fry is one of a kind. And I've always said I don't think there's another person. The guy sitting behind you probably has a better vantage point, Bob Brooks. But I'm not sure there's another person in the country that could have done at that time what Coach Fry did with the Iowa program. And I had the unique perspective of coming in year 3. Bob was there when Coach Fry arrived. So I got there in year 3, and that was the year things all took place. That's when the turn took. But that turn was in action or, in movement for a couple years prior. And I just remember going out to high school games. Scott, in those days you did that on Friday nights, and everybody wearing black and gold in Iowa. The Tiger Hawk was very, very prominent. And, that really struck me because I came from a pro environment being in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a Steeler town. And I quickly learned, the Hawkeyes were very prominent throughout the state. And Coach Fry's really the guy I think that was got that going. But my guess is he's had that personality his whole life, just like I've had my bad one my whole life too. So that's just the way it goes.
Here in front.
Just to follow up on Rob's question, is there flu running through?
I hope not.
Team?
Yeah, I mean, Zeus had it yesterday, and then we had one player develop it last night, but I hope not. We try to move the roommates out as soon as it happens, and we deal with this during the year too. We had more of it probably in the mid-year. College campuses, it's all over the place. So I don't think we're too concerned about it right now.
Get a microphone to the back here.
Damon Font, no, News OK. Coach, how do you use the large underdog factor at all to try to motivate your team against Oklahoma, a team that was obviously the consensus number 1 before the season started?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a huge motivating factor, but it's reality. There's a reason that we are the underdogs, and the team we're playing is really talented, but on top of that, really well coached, and so it's a tough challenge. But that being said, we've been in that situation prior, and this season and seasons past, and when you play in a bowl game, you usually play really good teams. At least that's been our experience. We've played, defending national champions, teams that won it the next year, USC, LSU, Florida. We've played some pretty good teams historically. It seems like that's what you do in a bowl game. And last year, Missouri was an excellent football team. So, it's really more about what we do and how we approach the game, and most importantly, how we play tomorrow night. But it's certainly good that our players understand, we're hardly favored and shouldn't be, so we're going to have to play our absolute best to make this a really good game.
Back in the risers.
Hey, Coach. Jared Aarons, CBS 2 and Fox 28, Cedar Rapids. You've played in a number of bowl games multiple times, the Orange Bowl, the Outback Bowl, Capital One Bowl, now the Insight Bowl. Does coming back to a bowl game make it easier preparation or comfort-wise when you kind of know the lay of the land already?
It's exciting when you go to a new venue. At least every one we've been to has been great. And then returning, it is easier in some regards because you know your way around a little bit. Although, this is a totally different feeling than what we had last year, and that was great. This has been great. One of my goals when I go to bowl games, and I'm doing well this week, is never to have to drive a car, which I haven't done this week, which is great. So things are within walking distance, that type of thing, and keeps things simple. But it's fantastic. But yeah, we feel a little bit like we know the place, and then the other part of it is knowing the people on the committee, and they just have been, as I said earlier, just absolutely fantastic. So we've to quote Bill Brazier, there's no such thing as a bad bowl game. Some are better than others, and this is going to be tough to beat. It's really been a great experience for us.
More questions?
Bill Brazier used to coach at Iowa, for those of you that aren't from Iowa. Name dropping here.
Any more questions? Want here to the left?
For the last time, when are we going to find out who the starting running back is?
The whole world's waiting on that one. I know that. I said jokingly anybody can play, but that's probably what's going to be. It'll be a committee effort, and we'll have a role for Brad Rogers. We'll have a role for Canzeri, for Bullock, and Jason White. So I think I've envisioned all 4 of those guys playing, and that's we'll go with all 4 of those guys. They'll do a good job. They'll do a good job. As long as we can get those young guys out of the locker room, they may be a little nervous, but we'll get them out of the locker room, get them started. They'll be fine.
Okay, we have time for one more question with Coach Ferentz here to the left, and then we'll posture for the pictures.
Dave Sittler's also world coach. Coach Stoops.
Yep.
Coach Stoops has talked several times about Bill Brazier and the influence he had on him. Could you just talk a little bit about what kind of a coach he was and the effect he had on his players?
I've been really lucky, coaching at Iowa. I've been there 22 years now, and my first 9 years, Bill was a defensive coordinator. The last 13, Norm Parker's been our coordinator, and so you think about it, 22-year span, 2 defensive coordinators, and they're both very much alike in that they're just really stable people, outstanding defensive coaches. But beyond that, I think the impact they've had on their players and the other staff members, support staff members, that to me is really what I think of when I think of both those guys. And, you think about this game, the impact Norm's had on our program, then transitioning back to Bill. Obviously, Coach Bob Stoops, but also Jay Norvell is one of the great stories in Iowa football history. Jay mentioned Brad Banks a moment ago. Jay started out in the defensive backfield, moved the linebacker, tight end back to safety. Nobody really wanted him. He was a walk-on player at Iowa. In his 5th year was his senior, all Big Ten player on a Rose Bowl team. So, and I think he would also tell you that Bill had a big impact. And Bill just as so much has been written about the coaches that went on from Iowa to become head coaches. I don't know if I've ever worked with a better coach than Bill Brazier, and I'd say the same about Norm Parker. So, Bill is just a top-shelf human being. He's retired. He and Ann are retired in Iowa City, and great members of our community. And I think if you talk to anybody that passed through Iowa when Bill was there, they would all tell you the same thing. Just a tremendous human being.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah,
Coach
thank
Stoops has entered the room. We will ask both coaches to stand behind their helmets, and we'll pause for a moment while the photographers position themselves. We've also been joined by Tempe City Council member Robin Arredondo Savage, who has a presentation for both coaches.
All right, coaches, I'm sneaking in here. I hope you don't mind. It was kind of a challenge to get past everybody. But I'm Robin Arredondo Savage, like they said, and on behalf of the city of Tempe, we'd like to welcome you. We're really excited that you're both here playing in the Insight Bowl. I know it's going to be an exciting game. What I've brought today is actually a custom-made bowl for the Insight, one for each of you, and it's actually from a local artist, so we're pretty excited about that. I'd like to give one to you, Coach Stoops.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Coach Ferentz?
Thanks, Robin.
Excellent. So for some of you don't know, just really quick, I'd just like to say, again, on the behalf of the city of Tempe, we're really excited that you're here. We welcome the coaches, the players, their families, all the visitors. Last year, Coach, I know you were here last year. It was pretty excellent. An exciting finish, if I remember right, an exciting win. But last year we had a record attendance of about 54,000 people. And we were really excited about that, and I think we all know what that does for our economy, what it does for our community, what it does for the Valley. So we're really excited about that. We're also excited about the weather, because the weather's been pretty fantastic.
It is.
It is predicted to be about 73 tomorrow, kickoff around 65. I think it's going to be really wonderful. So also don't forget about the block party, the Fiesta Bowl block party on Saturday. Our own Gin Blossoms will be there, and Sawyer Brown, I believe. So again, on behalf of the city of Tempe, thank you very much, Coach Stoops, Oklahoma Sooners, and Iowa Hawkeyes. We're really excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
for having us. Thank you.
All right, good luck. We know it's going to be a great game. Thanks.
If the coaches would please stand on the riser behind their helmet, and if the still photographers could kind of scoot down so the video photographers on the risers can get a clear shot. We'll ask the still photographers to move when they're finished so the video cameras can get an unobstructed shot. Okay, Coach Ferentz, thank you very much. And we'll now ask Coach Stoops to take his seat at the microphone, and we will Morning, Coach. Hi, how are you? Need some water?
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, again, if everyone would make sure your cell phones are off or on mute.
Thank you.
And we are streaming on the internet via InsideBowl.org. So let us get a microphone to you for your questions. Coach Stoops, some opening remarks, please.
Okay. I'd first just start by saying what a great, several days it's been. I don't know, we've been here 4 or 5 days, and could not have been better. The accommodations, everybody here in this whole region, Tempe, hotel accommodations, practice facility, has really been great. The people hosting us at the practice site, everyone's really just gone out of their way to make it great and special, and it's been that. I've been very pleased with the work of our players and just their attention to being on time to everything. They've been really good in meetings. They've practiced really well. So, I feel like we've taken the necessary steps in these days to give ourselves an opportunity to play well. My compliments always to Iowa. Coach Ferentz and his staff have always done a great job and has another tough physical football team that really plays well coming into this game. I've said, it's different for me, going against Iowa with my history and my brother's history for so long, so many of us at the University of Iowa and so many close relationships and ties. It's a little bit different. But once you get to playing it, that's another, you go into game mode and you got those 4 hours to where you're doing what you always do and competing. But so anyway, we're looking forward to the challenge of it here tomorrow night.
Okay, let's go to questions. We can start here in the middle. Okay, in the back.
Okay. Hi, Coach Stoops. Rick Coleman from KWWL-TV out of Iowa. And, with all the expectations coming into this season for Oklahoma being a preseason number 1, and, maybe this isn't the bowl game or a situation you wanted to have at the end of the season, what is the motivation of this team? Are you worried at all about maybe their lack of motivation going into this contest?
No, I don't. I said this yesterday. We've played over 100 years of football at Oklahoma, and we have 7 national championships. One of the more than most people do. So every single year that you don't win one, that's not that can't be a bad year. And we've played for many others, but in the end, not every year things are going to work that way. Whether it's a certain break here or there, or injuries or whatnot, or you just didn't play as well, or you catch a team that's hot. That's going to happen. So our motivation is anytime you're taking the field is to win another football game. We have a chance to win our 10th this year, and our guys have worked hard leading up to the game to give ourselves a chance for it.
Here in the aisle.
James Hale, Sports Talk 1400, The Ref in Norman. Bob, could you talk about Tony Jefferson in this game and how he'll impact the game and how you hope to use him? I know he plays 2 or 3 spots for you at times, so could you talk about his role in that secondary for you?
Well, he, along with everybody, are going to have to support in the secondary in different ways. But Tony is a guy that'll have to tackle well and be in position, read the run and pass properly, just like the other safety will. So, he'll need to play a good game. Your safeties and really everybody when you play Iowa to stop them has to play well.
In the back.
Coach, Jared Aarons from CBS 2 and Fox 28 in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. You touched just a moment ago on your relationship with Kirk Ferentz and your ties to the Hawkeyes. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how that changes the emotions of a game when you're going against a friend and going against a school that you have such strong ties to?
Well, it doesn't change anything when you get on the field, so I'll make that perfectly clear. It won't for Kirk, it won't for me. But, the friendship, the relationships are there. I mean, I said this yesterday, I'm repeating myself, but my wife yells at my children all Saturday morning, "Go Hawks," through the fall. So she just can't say it tomorrow. But, in the end, it's we've got a lot of great friendships there, and so it's one of the first scores. Once I see what my brothers have done during the week or during the game Saturday, it's the next score I'm looking for is see how Iowa did. So, but again, when you get to competing, you're in game mode. You do what you do all the time.
In the back?
Nathan Thompson, Fox 23. Coach, how important, obviously for this season to win this game, but going into next year, it seems that a good performance can catapult the team like at the Sun Bowl with Landry Jones and Ron Broyles seemed to do a couple of years ago.
It helps. In the end, there's more positive energy, and, but it's always a different team. You're going to lose seniors, you're going to add new players to the mix. So it helps to a degree.
To your right, Coach.
Bob, Kerry Murdoch from Rivals.com. Yesterday, you had so many young players in there in the media day with your stars, a lot of sophomores. They talked about coaches constantly being on them about leadership and developing leadership. Can you talk about kind of what this bowl process has meant for some of your younger guys and trying to develop more of a leadership role for them in the program?
Well, I think they always sense when you get in these bowl games that, some of the practices leading up, that you start, that the seniors are out a little quicker and they're getting more opportunities, more snaps, more, and they're further along than they were in the fall. Early in August. So I think they already start to sense their role coming up, that they're going to have more of a role and more opportunities and they start to realize these guys are going to be gone here in a few weeks. I'm now in that position where I can be a leader or I should be if I'm doing the right things. So I just think they sense those guys on their way out and that, hey, my opportunities are going to be bigger and I ought to be able to, and again, the guys that are doing it the right way, realize, hey, I ought to step up and be a leader.
In the back, to the right.
Yeah, Coach Chris Lincoln with ABC in Tulsa. Your thoughts on some of the seniors, some of the guys playing their final game for OU, what they've met in their class?
Well, they've done an excellent job. They've been a part of, several, Big 12 championships and just a year ago, beating Nebraska for the final Big 12 championship and winning a Fiesta Bowl. And so these guys have done a nice job. And this year in different ways we didn't get it done, but we're here again with a chance to win 10 games. And, these group of guys have been really strong for us. I think, guys like Frank Alexander, from a year ago and how he played this year, he really, played great football through the year. Travis Lewis fights through a broken toe and really did a great job with it, as difficult as it was to manage the whole year. And, Ryan Broyles, setting all kind of records. It's unfortunate we lose him, for the last 3 games. And just a great player. Anytime you set a national record, that's pretty special. So anyway, it goes on and on. Those guys have all done a nice job.
On the aisle.
Damon Fontenot, News OK. Bob, how different is this team, whether just through attrition, injuries, and the way the team's evolved? How different is it from when this season started?
Well, I think more than anything, just from the injuries, some of the attrition. Most of those guys haven't played it down. They don't change what we are on the field. So the guys you're missing are, the Dominique Whaley and Ryan Broyles. Those are significant, strong players. Adam Shedd was starting, and you lose. I don't know, who am I missing? We're missing a few others. Ronell Lewis, not being here matters. He's a guy that was a great player for us. Jazz, Reynolds really came on, end of last year and through this year and was also a big play guy for us. So, it changes your complexion a little bit. There's no denying that. But that doesn't matter. We're going to play, and other guys have more opportunities now that they need to step up and show that they can play at that winning level.
Over here to the right.
Bob, you've got your walk through today. I was wondering if you could talk about what you've seen out of Joe Powell up to this point, and is he a guy that you really expect to get legitimate snaps in this
yeah,
game.
Joe's ready. How many? I guess we'll see. You know how that is. How many? If guys get fatigued, or if you're on a long drive, how long it is, or So we'll just have to see. But Joe has done a good job. Really gathered things back up quickly. And has done a nice job through the last week and a half.
To the left, Coach.
Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. Bob, what's the chances we can get you to throw the ball to Winchester?
Oh, probably pretty good. James has done an excellent job, really also in the last couple of weeks. And we going into, the last couple of games, whenever we're facing, one of the better receivers, whether it be Oklahoma State, Blackman, and, certain guys, and James often will come over and work, and he does a great job. So we'll see how it goes, but I think pretty good.
In the back, Coach.
Oh, Coach, Rick Coleman from KWWL again. How difficult is to prepare defensively, knowing that Coker's not going to be there, and the guy that or committee of guys that will replace him, you can't find any tape on possibly?
No, that's true, but I don't believe they're going to change offenses. So I think what you still prepare for are the formations and the plays that they're used to running, and what I see is an excellent offensive line and tight ends and a quarterback in front of that guy that that play really well. So I'm sure they'll find guys that if they have space, they'll be able to jump in it and make something happen.
To your left, Coach.
Hey, Bob. John Hoover, Tulsa World. You've signed 3 junior college guys. I wonder, since we've got you here, could you give us a couple of comments on each guy?
Yeah, they're just guys that we're excited about, in positions. And we feel, when we have targeted guys at the junior college level, they, we have a pretty good track record over 13 years. They usually have come in and really made an impact on our team. We don't go after a lot of numbers-wise because we feel there's only a few that can really significantly impact our team. And we feel these guys obviously can do that, at the tight end position. And they're all here at mid-year. So they're all, all these guys at the tight end position and in the defensive backfield. And then at tight end are all areas that they're at defensive end also are guys that we feel can really make a difference for us. Yeah, toughness, quickness, size. They have all the the physical attributes you're looking for, and then they make they're productive players and make plays when they're on the field.
Coach, in the back on the aisle, Coach.
Coach Bob Erzik from Channel 5 KOCO TV, Oklahoma City. Landry says he's been going back and forth with his decision on whether he's going to stay, whether he's going to go. If he decides to go, how much does that kind of hurt your program a little bit? Obviously, it'd be great to have a senior quarterback with his experience coming back.
Well, I don't think you're saying it the proper way. I wouldn't like to say it hurts our program. If Landry's done a great job for us, if he feels that's in his best interest. These other young guys coming up have been working hard and will be ready to go. So in the end, we want him to do what he feels in his heart is best for him. And then we'll, if it's coming back, obviously you have more experience and that's great. And if not, then you make adjustments and you move forward. But I wouldn't say at all that it hurts us. I would just say it's just, it's just the way it is in today's world in college football, and you continue to grow from it.
On the aisle.
Bob, James Hale, Sports Talk 1400, the ref again. You've talked about a couple of guys at receiver that may get playing time we haven't seen this year. Your offense thrives on tempo, and it really works well when you have your tempo.
It thrives sometimes. Sometimes it hasn't thrived real well. And I tell you guys all the time, tempo isn't what makes it thrive. It's execution and precision and those kind of things. It has very little to do with how fast you're snapping it.
But that's what I was asking about. If you have to play some new players, are you worried about, since a lot of things are done with hand signals and things like that, everything flowing as well as you want on offense?
Sure.
Okay.
In the back.
I mean, yeah, I'm concerned about it.
Coach Stoops. I know it sounds like a one-on-one here, but a lot of questions for you here today.
A lot of questions.
Yeah. Bruce Kittle, I know that it was questionable, the hire, because of his, at the time, lack of big-time college coaching experience. How has he worked out for you on your staff?
He's done a great job. He's a great communicator, a very intense guy, great motivator. He's smart, understands what we want. Had been in our program for a full year ahead of that and understood how we operated, what we did, how we worked, and so I've been very comfortable with it.
Right in front, Coach.
Tony Capobianco, Tucson citizen. Do you have any idea on your brother Mike's future, whether he might be a defensive coordinator somewhere or head coach somewhere?
No.
No.
Over here to the left.
I think he has opportunities. I'm sorry, both ways. So and what he prefers is a good job, not one way or the other. So he's had. I mean, I think there's a legitimate chance for each of those.
To your left, Coach.
Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman. Bob, who's been your scout team quarterback for Iowa, and also has it been the same guy the last few weeks?
Ben Sherrard. Yeah. And he has been the last couple of weeks.
Any final questions for Coach Stoops? To the right.
Bob, just throw this out there with Travis Lewis's comments yesterday. He said that you put your foot down in this program after the regular season. Players weren't doing things the right way, not going to class, whatever. Have you been more no-nonsense throughout this time, and do you think that that's improved the chemistry or attitude of this team?
Well, I think some of that is just more recognized because, we've lost a few games. I've put my foot down every year this time of year. There's always been guys that all of a sudden aren't back or were, as people see all of a sudden they're transferring. Some of them have been told that they need to transfer because I'm not renewing their scholarship. And for a variety of reasons, which I've laid out before, whether it be continual and habitual skipping class, not being eligible to play or suspended from practice for these kind of academic reasons, or for drug testing reasons, or for walking out or skipping out on a weight workout. You're here to go to school and to be a heck of a football player, or at least try to be. And if you're not doing and living up to those obligations, you're earning your way, and you're bringing the team down. So at certain, I'm not saying all of these guys, but some of them, that's what happens. And it's just noticeable this year, or other years, and we've had more this year. But I said earlier, we've had more players academically suspended or missing practice than I had at any time here. And I love our policy of you miss a certain number of classes, you're taken off the field. And it's the right thing to do. And if guys, in certain ways, if that means putting my foot down, but I've done it other years too. All of a sudden, you know what? No, you don't need to. You're not earning your way around here. In fact, you're taken away from the team. You need to find a place to go because you haven't played it down. You don't go to class. You skip workouts. Well, what are you here for? In the end, I think it's the right thing to do. And if it sends a message to other players, they get it usually. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes from here. But again, this isn't the first time. Every year at this time of year, players understand, hey, have I been doing what's necessary to be here or not? And if I'm not, then maybe I need to go somewhere where the demands aren't so much. I can skip class. I don't have to go to workouts. I could walk into class 30 minutes late. I can skip a practice once in a while. If you go to some of these smaller East Handkerchief U's, maybe you can do that, but not here. Yeah. You know why? Because that 2% of my team isn't eating up 90% of my time all of a sudden. It's pretty simple. So you feel a lot better, that's for sure.
On the aisle, Coach?
Bob, over here now. I think if you're not the largest favorite, you're one of the largest favorite. Does that put you in a no-win or a difficult situation in this game?
I have no idea. I don't care what it does. I just got to win. We just got to win. We just got to play well. That's what I put all my thoughts into. So I don't know how to answer that. It doesn't matter. We're in that situation all the time, aren't we? We're supposed to win all the time, and if we don't, or when we do, a lot of times it's ho-hum. But so this is no different. We need, as a team, we need to play well and win.
To the left, Coach.
Gary Niemiec of the Tulsa World. Bob, getting back to what you said to Kerry, when you look back at this season, is that what's going to be most disappointing, that the character of the team didn't live up to your standards, or the standards at least that you expected when you guys went to camp in August?
Not really. I think there were some other significant issues that went, through the year that were hard to overcome. You lose your leading rusher, not easy to overcome in the second half of the year. You lose your top two receivers, not easy to overcome. You have back-to-back years where you're going on the road to play two teams that have had the best seasons they've had in the history of their program. So some of it's a little bit of circumstances weren't the best. And then, some of it our part, whether I'm not taking away what we can do better as a team, whether it be how we come into a game, whether we've done a good job coaching, whether I've done a good enough job having them prepared, so all of this goes together. And they, like I said, I've had more issues like that maybe than I've had in the past. So that also is a contributing factor. But to say that is the reason, no. All of it comes together.
To the left, Coach.
Coach, we talked a lot about Landry and Blake Bell. How is Drew Allen coming along?
Drew's done really well. He's not quite as big as Blake, but he's the backup in the Belldozer package. So he's doing good, really well, and throwing well. He's got a great attitude, and it's really fun to see. I've seen these guys. You're around them all day now, so you're around them more, and those three are palling around together all the time. So it's really neat to see healthy competition, but they're also very respectful and good with one another.
Any final question? Here to the left.
Yeah, has Landry done any campaigning to get in the Belldozer?
No. I think we'd have to rename it, and if we threw him in there, and not his style.
Any final question? Coach, thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.